Man, my pockets got knots, I'ma need me a masseuse. Man, they already know my name, I don't need to introduce. I be rhyming like I'm Zeus, bring the thunder like I'm Zeus. We can hang like a noose, then you...
Playboi Carti, the 25-year-old Atlanta rapper, fashion icon, vampire, cult leader, and now it seems Joker. After first blowing up and hitting the mainstream back in 2017, Playboi Carti has since been one of the biggest rappers out, and definitely has one of the most die-hard fan bases. However, through all these years of releasing 3 fire albums, doing numerous features on other huge artists' songs, as well as with a few of his own singles, Playboi Carti is yet to get a #1 hit on the Billboard charts. In fact, his highest charting song yet was with Pain 1999, which of course wasn't even his own song, but a feature he did for Drake, the actual biggest artist in the world. But for some reasons I'm about to get into, again, Playboi Carti has not had much success charting songs on the Billboard charts. However, he is still a young artist, with hopefully a long career still ahead of him. So in this video I'm going to discuss, will Playboi Carti ever get a #1 song? And also stay tuned for the first special guest to ever feature on my channel. So like I mentioned, Playboi Carti first really broke into the mainstream back in 2017 with his debut self-titled mixtape, which also included 2 of his most popular hits still to this day, Magnolia and Woke Up Like This with Lil Uzi Vert. But despite them being again 2 of his most popular songs, neither of them would even come close to breaking the top 10 on the Billboard charts, as Magnolia would peak at only number 29, and Woke Up Like This at 76. And then just a year later in 2018, Carti would drop his debut studio album, Die Lit. And despite Die Lit being another fire album also loaded with some big name features, the highest charting song off of it was Shoota, again with Uzi, which peaked at only 46. And then after an almost 2-year hiatus with little to no new music from Carti, he would finally return and drop his very highly anticipated second album back on Christmas of 2020, titled Whole Lotta Red. And if you can remember back when it first dropped, there were a lot of mixed reviews and opinions about it. However, Whole Lotta Red as an album would actually debut at #1, giving Carti his first ever chart-topping project. But despite the album debuting at #1, again, none of the songs off of it would even come close to breaking the top 10. And again, I think some of this is because of all the mixed feelings about it first, and then as time went on and Carti started performing the album at his shows, it definitely grew on a lot of people. But the highest charting song off of Whole Lotta Red would actually be Slayer, which peaked at only 72. The track Sky, which I honestly would have thought was the highest, as it's also his top song on Spotify, did not even chart at all. And then that brings us to his features he's done. As I mentioned earlier, Playboi Carti's highest charting song yet to this day is Pain 1999 with Drake, which he's actually the featured artist on. And again, that was with Drake, who if he wanted, could honestly get anybody a top 10 hit. But then Carti's also had 2 more features peak at the 11th spot, with Miss the Rage with Trippie Redd, and then more recently, Off the Grid with Kanye. So now that we've seen just how close, or maybe how far, Carti is from getting that #1 spot, let's get back to the original question. Will Playboi Carti ever get a #1 song? So to start, I think it's pretty obvious that Carti's style of music is not the most mainstream appealing, and because of this he also doesn't get much mainstream radio play either, which can definitely play a huge role in how big songs can get. But because Playboi Carti just has such a distinct sound that again I feel like the average mainstream listener probably wouldn't enjoy, I think it's going to be tough for him to get a #1 song. However, I'm not saying it's impossible. With all of these new trends nowadays and just the addition of TikTok alone, it's not out of the question for Carti to have another song of his really blow up on there, as his song Sky did a few weeks after the album's release, which has again helped make it his top song, as well as Carti's also had a few leaks and snippets of his already get super popular too, like his track Pissy Pamper, aka Kid Cudi with Young Nudie.
They tryna be crack, yeah, they tryna be crack, yeah, she wanna be Cudi, that bitch is a baby.
Like, that's literally one of the most popular snippets in hip-hop ever. And if they would have released it a few years ago when the hype was at its peak, I could definitely have seen that song getting at least in the top 5, if not all the way up to number 1, as somebody also uploaded a version of just Carti's verse under the title Kid Cudi on Spotify, and it actually got to the number 1 spot on the Spotify charts back in 2019. Again, with just some random dude who uploaded it, and it still could chart very well if they ever do actually drop it, as we've also seen now that Kid Cudi actually has a verse on it now too, but I know they were having a lot of issues with clearing this sample, which I think is really the reason why it's still not released. But now I'm going to turn it over to itsAaronSpeaking, another dope hip-hop YouTube channel, and let him give his thoughts.
Yeah, it's your boy Aaron speaking. 1111, what is good, bro? Thank you for having me. Now, I found this topic interesting because you would think, at least the people that are into the hip-hop scene, you know, you would think that Carti, with how big his fan base is and how much they foam at the mouth for him and how diehard they are, that he would have had a lot more hits that he already has under his belt. Now, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're a Carti fan, or at least know the songs like Shooter, Mr. Rage. Shit, you would have thought Magnolia would have been a top 10 hit at this point, but it wasn't. It peaked at 29 actually. His highest, like 1111 mentioned, was a Drake feature, peaking at number 7. And that's a verse that a lot of people said was ass. I mean, I thought it was cool before a Drake song where a shit ton of casual fans who never even heard of you are gonna hear you for the first time, and you come with that? Damn, he definitely fumbled the bag on that. But back to the topic in hand. Will Carti ever get a number 1? To be honest, alone with no feature, I don't know, man. I doubt it. I think he's too much of a niche, unique artist that your average fan wouldn't really bump like that. It's not that broad of a range for a sound that he makes. The sound he has now isn't necessarily a mainstream sound, or ever really was, honestly. Now, could he get a number 1 with a feature as the lead artist? Maybe, yeah, it's possible. Especially with TikTok, anything's possible to get a number 1, at least for a week, depending on the featured artist. Like if it was a Billie Eilish or Ariana Grande or Ed Sheeran, or, you know, going that route, or if Ye had a smash hit and Carti was on it, sure. But yeah, I don't see it. But yo, thanks for having me, my boy. Go subscribe to 1111 right now. What you waiting for? We taking over. Let's get it.
Hey, shout out again to itsAaronSpeaking. Make sure y'all go check out his channel too if you haven't already. And he also has his own hip-hop podcast as well. But like he was also saying, to wrap this up, neither of us really think that Carti will ever get that number 1 hit. Again though, like we both said too, it's still not impossible though, especially if Carti gets a huge name feature on the song with him, or the other way around if Carti is the feature. And then you add again the fact that TikTok exists, which is honestly a huge factor in blowing up songs today. Like, just look how Ian Dior and 24K Golden, who especially at that time weren't very well-known artists, but their collab song Mood would spend 8 consecutive weeks at the number 1 spot, mainly just because of how popular it got on TikTok. But in the case here of Carti, his musical sound and style is again just not very mainstream appealing. And even though his fanbase is one of the most dedicated there is, it's hard to compete with these huge radio-friendly artists you always see on the Billboard charts. But overall, while it's not impossible, like both of us said, it's not looking very likely that Playboi Carti will ever get a number 1 song. So that'll do it for this video on Playboi Carti. If you haven't yet, please do me a favor and drop a like for me. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for new videos every week. I also wanted to mention that I finally started an Instagram page for the channel, so be sure to also check that out as well.
They was like Ray Charles, didn't see my vision. Only need one shot, don't need no provision. Man, I don't need no permission when I'm whipping in the kitchen. When I'm scraping all these bowls, it is like I'm doing dishes. I ain't worried about that girl, could've see got lots of fishes. I ain't really read the terms or agree to those conditions. I ain't really come from rags, but I'm